94.3 The Dude is very grateful to our men and women in uniform. We're proud to recognize local members of our military by turning the spotlight on them right now in our Soldier Salute.
I'm your host, United States Marine Corps veteran Ethan Stitch Gardner, and on today's Soldier Salute, I have United States Army Infantry veteran Ronnie Stewart. Ronnie, thanks so much for being here with me today. Thanks for your service. Celebrating your 38th birthday today, September the 12th?
Yeah. Yep, 38, big 38.
That's awesome, man. Tell us about yourself. Tell us a little bit about your story in the United States Army.
Grew up in Chicago. I moved to San Diego during high school. I played college football there, and after that, I joined the U.S. Army, joined the infantry. I did a lot of my training at Fort Benning. Well, pretty much all of my training for that was at Fort Benning. I was there for roughly 5 months doing various things between infantry training to javelin training to the RIP program and airborne school and all those things. And then suddenly I ended up, after it was all said and done, and all my wonderful endeavors in the Army, I ended up here. Chicago
kid, all the way down here in South Carolina. What's that like? Differences, similarities, anything?
Zero similarities. None. The heat, nothing similar to that.
Is that unbearable here? Like, it's unbearable for me. Like, I hate it.
I thought after being here for about 15 years that I would get used to it, and that's a false hope.
Okay, so I've only been here for 3, so
just don't get your hopes up. Okay. It's not going to happen.
Great. Awesome. Thanks. Ronnie, in our pre-interview, you spoke with me about RIP and Ranger School. Now, as an infantry Marine, I don't know a ton about the Army, but I know a little. What I thought was that there was only one school that you had to go through to become a Ranger, and you've explained to me that that is just not true.
No, it's not. There's 2 different aspects to it. You have to go through, and they've changed the school overall. They've combined certain parts of it, but RIP was what it was when I was going through, and it was 4 weeks long, and it's basically a 4-week smoke session. Very little sleep, a lot of physical activity.
Tons of fun. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it was a highlight of my life, in other words. In a lot of ways, I'm totally being sarcastic about that part. But it was about 4 weeks of that, and then once you finish that, then you have to actually go to school. When you finish RIP, you actually get your scroll. Scroll is different. It's it literally looks like a scroll. It says, 75th Ranger Battalion on it, pretty much, and it's black with red and white lettering. The tab are the ones that go through the 61-day program, which is actually Ranger School. So there are 2 different ways. So there's people that'll look at you and say, oh, you're not a Ranger unless you got your tab. Technically, they are correct.
So which one's harder, RIP, Ranger School?
I don't know. I didn't go to Ranger School. So, I would imagine that considering it was twice as long at the time, I would imagine it would be a whole lot harder. And I have spoken to a lot of people that have been through that aspect, and they said various things, how difficult that was. It's just being in the infantry, you go through those different phases. You have 14 weeks of OSIT training, which is one station unit training. Anybody else that goes in another MOS, because I was 11 Bravo, they will tell you they had AIT. So that was basically our AIT and basic combined. And then you go to airborne, but I had javelin training in there between those 2 things, and then you go to RIP. So it just kind of progressively gets more and more difficult. So they just keep pushing you.
Ronnie, you and I are extremely similar. So I was a 0311 infantry rifleman. You were at 11 Bravo infantry rifleman, and both of us spent 4 years training. New schools, new jobs. I had an absolute blast doing it. Did you have the same experience that I did?
Yeah, you spend most of your military career learning stuff, and then you're learning stuff from the greatest military in the world. So that just kind of adds a little bit to the coolness of it. I think the biggest thing for me, I've been asked before, what's some of the cooler things, and do you regret not being able to use all of those things that you learned? And I mean, yeah, I guess when you're in the infantry, everyone just assumes you're going to go run out and go to war and run out and shoot your gun at people and do all this other stuff. And no, I didn't know a whole lot of that. At the same time, how many people in the military can say that they fired a javelin missile, or that they even know what one is, or that they've even trained to fire one? I mean, how many people have been to NTC, which is the National Training Center, which was in Fort Irwin, California. It's a lot of things that I took from that, and then it's just not only that, but just the experience itself, that the leadership qualities I was able to build doing those things, and the mental capacity that's required to do that stuff. You grow with it. I mean, I got to fire a missile. It was like playing a video game. So
tell me more about the javelin missile. That's a multi-million-dollar piece of of equipment. Tell us a little bit about that.
The main thing with it is the Javelin is a shoulder-fired missile. It was supposed to replace the TOW, the Dragon, those types of things that were wire-guided, generally were mounted on vehicles. Well, this was what we call fire and forget, which means you launch it, and then you can go, if you smoke cigarettes, you can go smoke a cigarette. If you want to go have a brownie out of your MRE, you can go do that. But you don't have to wait because it's going to hit its target as long as you locked on it. It was cool because it has a unit, the acronym is CLUE. We call it CLUE, which stands for Command Launch Unit. Night vision monitor that you see, and it looks literally like a video game. It has a little D-pad on it that you control, has triggers on it. I mean, anyone that's been to arcade would probably be able to relate to it. So
it's like PUBG on steroids, right?
Yeah, and at the same time, I haven't played PUBG. So
thank God, because neither have I. Okay. So we'll both sound like fools on the radio. Ronnie, you, like most vets, have a passion for physical fitness. The difference between most physical fitness routines and your routine is it's intense. We're talking about Body Bootcamp. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that?
I've been in the fitness industry for about 15 years now, since I moved here. On a day like today, it makes me feel extra old, actually, because I've been doing that long. I work for Dynamic Health and Fitness. I've been with them for a little while now, and we are military veteran owned, I should say. I've been enjoying the crap out of it. So I had this opportunity to not only run the group training there, but to start a program that people can, even if they're not members, they can come take this program. And basically it's a fit body challenge that's called Drop It Like It's Hot. It's kind of a play on, dropping weight, dropping body fat, that type of thing. But also you could take it another way, like, hey, we're going to do a lot of burpees. So you're really going to be dropping it like it's hot a lot and throughout the process. But the cool thing is, what I learned throughout, my athletic years and being in the military is that I built this strong passion to work with people to help them just get better, in particular physically, which also brings the mental aspect of it too. Something I've been doing for a while. I have a part of that called Downrange Bootcamp. Anyone that is a military veteran or knows anything about that, downrange is what we call when we're going to basic training when we come from garrison, which is where we stay and they feed us all this actually good tasting food, and you sit around, and I think I gained maybe 4 or 5 pounds while I was in garrison before I went down. That was a setup.
This is all a trick. It was all a trick.
Yeah, it was a setup. I knew it, and I knew it wasn't going to be that good the whole time at all. It was kind of cool to be able to use that, because for me it was just a symbolization of saying, hey, like, you're getting ready to start going down the path that's going to be really tough for you, and at the end of that path, there's going to be a better version of yourself at the end. So we have that there. Do a lot of military style training. There's people like to use the word CrossFit now. I'm not one of those guys. I'm one of those where I just do whatever the heck that needs to happen, and that's what we do.
Yeah, I feel like some people, whenever they see military style workouts, they're very, very productive workouts, but I feel like when people see them, they assume that we're doing CrossFit, when that's not really what we're doing.
No, I mean, the main thing is there's not a lot of weight training involved with it. It's all body weight training, which makes it really good for everyone. You don't have to be someone that's in the weight room a lot or even has weight room experience. The goal is to get you to do things that you're not comfortable doing and things that you're not able to do. You'd be amazed how many people don't do push-ups well. I'll be the first one to tell you, I went to basic and I'm benching 405 pounds. I had just played football, probably 2-3 months before that I was, playing football, and I'm getting the basic, and my first PT test was an ego crusher because I think it was 16 push-ups. I can move 405 pounds of weight, but I couldn't move my own body weight, and I'm a 6'3", 250-pound guy. So 16 push-ups, and my arms locked up, and I couldn't do but 21 sit-ups. I was nowhere close. Running a 2 mile, it took me 20 some odd minutes, but I ran a 4.640. So it made me confused initially, but I started to learn more that, going in the weight room doesn't define you being fit. It doesn't make you strong. There's a lot of different things that comes to it that you need to be able to do.
It's September 12th here in the studio. In our pre-interview, you told me a crazy story. Every veteran of the Iraq and Afghan war always has that answer to the question, where were you when 9/11 happened? Your story is probably one of the craziest ones that I've heard. 9/11 happened while you were in Army boot camp.
Yeah, well, for starters, it's kind of already somewhat linked to me just because it's right before my birthday. This is the day before. Now, I had joined, because of things going on in the world, so I joined the military to go fight for a cause and just fight fight for my country and those types of things. And then we are in graduation week. We're graduating on the Friday. We had just got back from a 25-mile road march. We're prepping everything. I mean, literally 25 miles walking with a river crossing, a little bit of a cliff climb. Hadn't gone to the bathroom for a week because I was eating MREs and stuff like that. And we're sitting there, and I'm getting my bunk set up and doing all my creases and whatnot. And it's a Tuesday, and our drill sergeant, most people know you have two of them, and he walks in and he goes, terrorists have just attacked the World Trade Centers in New York, and he just walked off. I'm thinking to myself, what just happened? Like, what? Wait, what? And then we just had this multiple different aspects of emotions that came out. Some people are yelling like, yeah, we're going to war, woo. And then you have some people like, oh my God, and some are crying. And I just remember asking my bunkmate, his last name was Stock, because we did everything alphabetical order. I said, how you feeling about this right now? And he said he was really quiet. He's from Oklahoma. I felt like he never saw people until he got to basic. And he said, I don't know. And I was like, me neither, man. And everything after that was a whirlwind. My mom was supposed to be traveling to come see me. She got stuck. There was no flights going out anywhere. It was taking 2 hours to go on military base. I mean, they shut down all of the sporting events everywhere. It was a crazy week. And I will never forget that because of when it happened, where I was when it happened. Obviously, it really was a life changer for me. So, did
the mentality change once you started to see the footage of what happened? Was the aspect of it different once you saw those? So
it was cool. It was cool and not cool. And the reason I say it was cool is because we hadn't seen a TV in like 4 months. I was like, oh, he turned the TV on. And then, so it's like, man, we're watching this and it looks like a movie. Like, it's just something that you don't see ever. And then when you're kind of exposed to civilization the way that we were, it just makes everything that much more amplified. But to something like that, it was nuts. I mean, you don't really know what to think about what's going on. You start to think about your loved ones and wondering how they're doing, even though they're nowhere near New York. And you don't know of stuff's happening elsewhere. You don't know what's happening. So it was scary. It was a lot of emotions. Scary. It was angering. It was saddening. It was a lot of different things. So, but yeah, it's a memory I'll carry with me a long time. I don't think that anyone, we have a lot of different things going on these days right now, and that's the one day that regardless of the racial tensions and political stuff and all these different things going on, people just need to forget about all that stuff at least yesterday, every year. That's how I feel about it.
When I was a kid, I was too young to remember the towers getting hit, but I remember my parents, and I remember them just being down, just being sad. And I think I wonder if you agree with me. I think that's something that everybody across America, no matter how close you were to the towers, shared. Everybody's heart hurt. We were all hurting for fellow Americans, and I think it brought us closer together. And I agree with you. I think that that's something that we need to come together every September 11th and forget about all the other things that we're dealing with. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and I think any opportunity for us to use our country a lot more cohesive and to do things more as one. We call it the United States for a reason. So I think that it's a big deal when that actually happens and we unite and we all focus on one thing as a group, because that day nothing else really mattered. All the other stuff that was going on, like, no one cared who was what, male, female, black, white, Hispanic, any of that stuff. No one cared. Everyone was trying to help. Everyone was concerned with other people, trying to make sure that they understood what was going on. Even the people on the flight that didn't make it to his location. There's a lot of different aspects. So yeah, I really believe that, and I think we need to make sure our kids understand that too, because a lot of people right now don't remember. It's our Pearl Harbor. We don't know anything about that stuff. So I'll just talk to veterans and ask them about that. All I know is a book or a documentary that's on the History Channel, because my dad really likes to watch the History Channel. But I just think that those are the types of things we should really be, letting our kids know, and let them know like how hey, on that day, like a lot of people, we all became one, even if it was only for a few hours or a day or whatever it may be, no matter what was going on, that was a time.
Ronnie, we talked a little bit privately about post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, it's plaguing our Iraq and our Afghan vets, and it's hard. It's something that the American people don't seem to quite understand, but something that I have realized, and I think a lot of other veterans and a lot of other people out there have realized, is that PTSD is not limited to the battlefield.
First and foremost, I have PTSD. I didn't get mine from, going to war or whatever it may be. It's not something that's literally only associated with being in combat. It's something that people experience every day in other aspects of life. I feel very strongly about it, obviously, because I have it, but I've learned a lot more about it once I found out that I did have it. The biggest thing that I like to tell people is that we don't know what people go through. Military veterans and whatnot, they, especially ones that have been in combat, and even ones that haven't, that's just been through a lot of strenuous training, they go through a lot of things that you can't see that they're wearing on their sleeves. So I invite a lot of people that when you see a military veteran, if they're wearing their uniform, if they're wearing something that shows that they were in combat just because they have, a patch, or they're wearing dog tags, or you see them pull their military ID out when they're buying something at, the register, just say hi to them, because it goes a long way for people that have it, just for someone to go out of their way to ask them if they're okay, because that's one of the coping mechanisms that they have. Is they just, a lot of times people that have it, they feel by themselves, they feel depressed, they don't know how to control their emotions. We can only do so much for each other, especially people that we don't know, but I feel like that's just something that we can do. Just as being human beings, I think we can just try and do a little bit more.
Ronnie, again, happy birthday. So glad to have you. Thanks for your service. We talked a lot about your passion for physical fitness and how you care a lot about the health and well-being of other people, and that's what's driven you to do this. Tell me a little bit more about that serious passion, that desire that you have to help your fellow man and woman be physically, mentally healthier.
I think the main thing that starts with is just how the surroundings that I was in and how my family, was, when I was growing up, because my family and I have historically a very good history of health. I had a grandfather that died very young. My grandmother just passed not too long ago from a lot of health issues. I had other family members that passed at young ages because of certain things, and I just didn't want to be a statistic of my family. That was just another person that happened to. And so that really made me the type that wanted to be very active and wanted to be more knowledgeable in those types of things. And I think that combined with just the nature of wanting to be a leader, working with our youth, working with young athletes, working with older athletes. I've worked with professional athletes, worked with semi-pro athletes. I've worked with a lot of different people over the years. And the common denominator with all that is I was just passionate about them being better. So even now, I get just as much joy as helping a kid earn a football scholarship as I do from helping a 51-year-old teacher drop 30 pounds in 2 months. I mean, it's all the same to me, and both of them, those things are very life-changing. So I think for me, that's the biggest part for me, is just the passion to try and make sure that people get better. It helps with the mental aspect. Honestly, it could also lead to the spiritual aspect as well, improving. So it's going to always be my passion. Even though I'm 38 today, and then when I'm 48, it'll still be my passion. And when I'm 58, it'll still be my passion, and I plan on being 68, and then it'll still be my passion. So
if you're in the market looking for an experienced personal trainer, you can find Ronnie at the Charter Oaks location at Dynamic Fitness.
Thanks for joining us in our Soldier Salute, presented by Little Pig's Barbecue, serving Columbia since 1963 with that bodacious buffet. And Palmetto State Armory, American made for life. And Franklin Equipment, rent, buy, rely. And Atkins Law Firm Workers' Comp Attorneys. Who you hire matters.